video is for my freshman students. And I'm going to briefly talk about what we're doing this week. Let's go ahead and have a look. Let's do this. Here we go. Alright, you're going to jump onto Canvas. You're going to go to Modules. And we're getting towards the end of our unit here. Okay, this is like our second to last week that we're going to be looking at Module 8. I'm going to scroll down way too far. Module 8, here we are, here we go. So this week what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at how writers use our emotions to play tricks on us, to convince us to buy their things or support their causes or to change our minds, to call us to action. Alright? And we call this pathos. Alright? It's the appeal to emotion. Okay? The pathos appeal. And it's when writers or directors or artists, use whatever art they're most fluent in order to try to persuade people to change in some way, shape, or form. And so, this is kind of a higher level concept. I don't usually teach students about, the emotional appeals until maybe their junior year. But this is a small little bit that I think is going to be really interesting to you and really helpful to you, and just help you better understand where people are coming from when they try to give you a piece of persuasive writing. So, yeah, Lesson 4 of Module 8 focuses on pathos. And the first activity that I have you guys doing this week is a quick write, and I want you to consider this advertisement right here. Okay? So you'll read the ad, then answer the following questions. How convincing is this ad? And do you think that it might convince people to donate to the ASPCA? Explain why or why not. And so if you don't know what the ASPCA is, it's an organization that aims to help animals. Okay, they provide shelters to lost animals. They feed them, they take care of them, they give them medical treatment. And it's kind of expensive to do. Alright, that's a lot of kibble to buy. So what they do is they create these persuasive advertisements to try to convince people to help support their cause. And so that's exactly what this is right here. Alright, and I want you guys to evaluate this advertisement. Okay, it's got this cute little puppy on it, and it says, "She'll love you forever. You can help give abused pets the love they deserve. Donate today." And so I want you guys to evaluate this ad, answer the 2 questions. It's a quick write, so, the text, if you click Start Assignment, it should pop up down here at the bottom. Alright, give yourself a good 3 to 5 minutes of writing here. I'm not looking for something super big, but I am looking for at least a paragraph. That's what you should aim to do here. Now in the next activity, got a short lesson. Okay, and this talks about using pathos as a rhetorical strategy. And when I talk about rhetoric, I'm just talking about arguments. I'm talking about persuasive writing. And let me go ahead and make this big. I'll show you guys this presentation. I'm going to skip a few slides though. But just understand what pathos is. When we're making a strong argument, okay, oftentimes, 1 out of 3 times, our speaker is going to try their best to appeal to your sense of humanity, to your human nature. They're going to try to make you feel feelings in order to get their point across to you. Because that's what gets people's attention, right? When they're triggered, either positively or negatively. And pathos, which is an emotional appeal, uses emotion to persuade the audience to change, to do something different. Okay? And in order to create emotional appeals, okay, writers may use tone. We've talked a lot about tone recently. Repetition of ideas, and they might ask rhetorical questions. And rhetorical questions, that's pretty much when you ask a question but you're not expecting an answer for it. Alright? It's obvious questions. You understand what I'm talking about, right? There's an example right there. I don't expect you to answer that. Alright, so, getting right back at it. Here's some examples of how authors include pathos in their writing, okay? They might provide you with pictures that really get you to thinking. They might provide meaningful stories or anecdotes. Okay, when we're talking about anecdotes, okay, we're talking about our own testimony, our own stories. It's when we get to share our feelings and our experiences with others to kind of put them in our shoes a little bit. Alright, we might also use inspirational quotes to trigger people's heartstrings. And we might use imagery. We might give real detailed descriptions as to what we experienced or what we saw or what's happening in order to get people really thinking. So, real quick, here's an advertisement that is obviously really upsetting to look at. Alright, we have what appears to be a child. And taking what I already know about human nature and about expressions, it's automatically very clear to me that this child isn't happy. Okay? They don't look very happy. They look worried, and I'm seeing fear here as well. I'm seeing a lot of fear. And that's where my attention immediately goes. I look at the kid's face. I can't help it. That's what I see first. Now, as my eyes travel down through the paragraph, I see the words here. Your words have power. Use them wisely. And then I'm looking at the next thing here, and I see the outline of what appears to be a hand, but there's not a hand there. Okay, it kind of looks like a ghost. Instead of a hand, there are words here. Real negative words. Okay, remember how we learned about loaded language? Okay, I think every single phrase and word written on this hand maintains very negative tones, very negative feelings attached to them. Okay, it's very loaded negative language. Fool, you're such an blank. You can only fill in the blank. Moron. What else do we have here? Weakling. Pig. Worthless. Fatso. A lot of negative language here. And so questions we should ask ourselves when we see advertising, any advertising, because remember, the whole point of advertising is to sell you on a thing or an idea. So good questions to ask. What examples of pathos are in this ad? What examples of elements that make our emotions be triggered? What in this picture triggers us? That's a good way to put it. What triggers us here? What gets you feeling? What makes you upset or happy? It depends on what picture you're looking at. How do the examples make the audience feel? So the things that really trigger those feelings in you when you're looking at this image, okay, how does that make the audience feel? Think about the audience to this picture. And then lastly, what does pathos persuade the audience to do? So ways we can answer this. For the first question, what are examples of pathos in this ad? Well, we obviously see the crying child, right? That's at the top because that really took, my attention immediately. Okay, we also see the hand formed by words that some parents or caregivers might use when they're yelling or mad at their children. Okay? We might also see a phrase explaining that words have power, so parents and caregivers should think about the words they use when they are angry with a child, right? Yeah. And so we can imagine maybe the audience to this, they're adults. Okay? Maybe adults with children. Okay? The whole point of this ad is to get them thinking, right? So yeah, the examples make the audience feel sorry for the child and angry with the parents and caregivers who use demeaning or harsh language when disciplining children. And then for our last question, what does pathos persuade the audience to do? Well, it persuades the audience to reconsider the words that they use when they are angry with children. See how that works? See how this image, really triggers us, really makes us feel, concerned and worried and upset. And that makes it all more effective. Okay? That's why tone matters. And so here's another picture that I want you guys to consider the tone of. Okay? We see 2 feet here. One of them is biological, the other one not so much. And the advertisement reads, spare parts for humans are not as original as those for cars. Don't drink and drive. And it's really important too with advertising that you see who is paying for the message. Alright? And so you're going to do the same thing. And you're going to do the same thing in the next activity here. I'm going to exit out of this full screen and I'm going to put myself back here. Okay. On this next page, okay, there's a quiz here. And I'll show you what it looks like. It's that same picture that we just looked at before. And what you're going to do is you're going to do what we just did for the child abuse picture. Okay, for this advertisement, you're going to tell me what are the examples of pathos in the ad. You're going to tell me how this makes the audience feel. How does it trigger the audience? And I want you to explain to me how this persuades the audience to do something. And I have sentence frames in here that I want you to use as well. So it's okay if you can find all three of these answers into one answer, into one sentence. But do try your best to use these sentence frames here. So for example, for the question that asks, how do the examples make the audience feel? You can start it off by saying, this example makes the audience feel blank. And you just fill in the blank. All right? Now lastly, the last thing we're going to work on this week, we'll get to this on Thursday. But I've given you this a long time ago, okay? I've given you this, I think, at the very beginning of the unit. We've read this speech together as a class, but now we're going to consider how Toni Morrison uses the appeals to emotion to really make her point to the graduating class of 1979. And you guys should have a copy of this already that you've been working on, that you've read, that you've annotated. So if you can find that original copy, I think you're going to have a better time. But if not, you can just make a new copy. It's not going to be the end of the world. So what you're going to do is you're going to come to the page here and remember the main question, your purpose for reading. What is Morrison trying to say about the importance of how we treat others? So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to take it to our article here. I'm going to paste it there. Okay, and then I want you all to reread this. We may have read this several times before, but I want you to read it again when you answer these questions down at the bottom of the page. So the first question you'll answer will be that purpose question, okay, the purpose for reading question. What is Morrison trying to say about the importance of how we treat others? Okay, you'll put that answer there. You may have already done this before. If so, good for you. I'm proud of you. But now what we're going to do is we're going to write a summary about the speech using the strategies that we've already learned about writing summaries. Okay, I have some sentence frames here that you can use. Okay, so you can fill in the blank. Like, for example, you can say, the speech, Cinderella Stepsisters, 1979, by Toni Morrison, explains blankety blankety blank, or shares the idea that blankety blankety blank, or conveys to the listener blankety blankety blank. Okay, you guys come up with the blanks here, but just make sure that you tag the speech, give me the title, the author, and the genre. Okay, Cinderella Stepsisters, Toni Morrison. It's a speech. I think about that for a second. All right, and so you'll summarize the main points. Okay, you'll look to the speech. You'll give me the main points here, and be sure to use essential words. Okay, make sure that you transition between ideas appropriately. Use good verbs. And here's a text box that gives you ideas on how you can construct your summaries here. But what I want you to do in these lines here is I want you to summarize the main points of the speech. What is Toni Morrison trying to explain to us? What are the most valuable points she makes? And you'll just list them right here by the bullet points. And then when you're ready, using your template from up here, using your topic sentence template, that'll be your first sentence. Okay, you're going to write me a summary that, shares this speech with me without telling me the speech exactly. That shares its main ideas and its main message and its main theme. So that should be a paragraph. Okay, good summaries. Aim for about 8 sentences. Okay, this is going to be a big, beefy piece of writing, and this also is going to be a big portion of your grade book. So please do your best. And then down here, this is where we're going to consider how pathos plays a role in this speech. Okay, we just learned about pathos, we just learned about the appeal to emotion, and Toni Morrison makes several appeals to our heartstrings in her speech here, and I want you guys to consider it. So it asks that you go back up to the speech and you highlight all of the evidence in the passage that supports the claim. Now, if you already highlighted and annotated your speech, that's okay. What I would do in your situation is choose a specific color to highlight all of those parts that support your claim, okay? I want you to look at the evidence that you highlighted, and I want you to determine which part of the highlighted text, which quotes you pulled from that best supports your claim, okay? And the claim is up here. I'm not making you guys write the claim. I'm giving you the claim right here. Morrison wants her audience to recognize that the way they treat one another in a professional world influences the advancement of women's rights. Okay? And so find a quote that supports that claim and explain it to me. How does this quote support that Morrison wants her audience to recognize that the way they treat one another in the professional world influences the advancement of women's rights. And you'll do that reasoning down here in this box. But we're not done. I also want you guys to consider pathos. I want you guys to consider pathos, not ethos. Wait till junior year for that. I want you guys to tell me how Toni Morrison appeals to our emotions in order to get us thinking. So tell me what the author's purpose is. Okay, here's a hint. Think about her audience. Why is she there? Who is she speaking to? Okay, tell me what the author's purpose is for writing. Tell me how you know it. Okay? And you know what? I give you some clues up here at the top, right? I give you a brief description as to what she's doing and who she's talking to. Okay, don't forget to reference that. Don't forget to reread that. Okay, and then down here, who is the author's intended audience? How do you know? Consider author's tone. All right, so up here there's a passage in a box. I want you to read that passage and tell me what the tone is of that box, okay? Is it a positive tone? Is it a negative tone? Is it inspiring? And if you need to go back and look at that word bank that I gave you last week with several words that you can use to describe tone, that might be a good idea, okay? And it's not good enough if you just, tell me what works, but I want you to tell me how you know it. I want you to think about it. And then lastly, I want you to consider the pathos. What are examples of pathos in the text? How does Toni Morrison appeal to our heartstrings and our emotions? Okay, how does she make us feel as an audience? Okay, how does she make the graduates feel? Okay, and what does the pathos persuade the audience to do? What do her arguments, how does her use of triggering your emotions, how does it push you? How does it make you feel? What does it make you want to do? So you're going to answer that right there. Okay? And then I think that's it for this week. Do I have anything else here? I think I'm going to push this to next week. I'm going to change that right now, actually. But yeah, I don't want to do that. I think I've given you guys enough this week. Alright, so, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you need any help from me, please reach out through all the proper channels. You know how to email me, you know how to get my attention. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on Zoom, and hopefully I'll see a few of you guys back on campus. They're inviting freshman students back on campus on Wednesday, April 21st. Unfortunately, I am going to be absent that day. I have something very important to attend to. But I will be back on campus on Thursday when we're scheduled to have class anyways. So I look forward to seeing your bright, shining faces, and I look forward to learning with you together in a physical environment as well as a digital environment, whatever works best for you. So yeah, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.